informative and contains my opinion and understanding of the subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hi guys, how are you? Welcome to the show. Dr. Schultz is back by popular demand. There you
Thanks
go.
for having me.
Well, thank you for coming. Everybody's always like, when's Dr. Schultz coming back? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, she has a life. I was like, but I'll call her. And then I call you and you always give us time. So we appreciate that.
Always.
We really, really do. Hi, everybody that's here. Sarah, thank you so much. You're the best. You're so supportive. I just tried to highlight that. Like, oh, here it goes. I'm like, where did it go? There you go. Thank you, Sarah. You guys, I worked really hard tonight on, like, I have little video clips. I don't know why. There must be an easier way than what I did. But I went through like 2 big documentaries and I made like, you can only make up to 60-second clips. So I made a bunch of like small clips that we're going to play throughout. And the way that I have it up, it should run pretty smoothly. So I am pretty prepared tonight, you guys. So hopefully this is going to be a good one. Good to see you, Cuffy. Good to see you, Sarah. And oh, look, a squirrel. Everybody's here. Mark's here. Wow, look at Phoenix is here. See, they love you. They're all coming out to see you. Marilyn's here. Hi, everyone. And if I didn't see you, I apologize. I think I got everyone. I hope. Okay, so tonight's episode is about Elliot Rodger. How was this assignment?
This one was good. I think not that he was an easier one, but you know, he's someone that's just so in your face that as someone in psychology or counseling, you can like pick up on the stuff like pretty quickly with him.
I totally agree. And he gives us, like, he tells us a ton. So I think that is a great point. I have real quick, I'm going to start it out with like one of the clips that I took. Okay. I literally like took forever to do this. I don't know what I was thinking. And then also Sarah in the, she's here, Sarah Adams. She is a blogger. And for anyone that doesn't know, I will put the link to her blog in the chat, but I gave her homework. I'm like, well, I gave everybody homework because I was like, that way everybody could talk about it. And I must tell you, she did her homework. So she 100% did the assignment. So I'm going to use her blog as notes as well, but I want to start us off with a video. I have to add it to the stage. All right, let's see. Wait, let me see which one over here I should do. Let's do. Yeah, I guess that one makes most sense. There's like a little program things. Oh, here we go. This one makes it bigger. Oh, that makes us bigger. Hold on. Let me go back to the other one. I should have just left it where it was. Everything was fine. Here we go. I'm leaving it like that. Okay. So I added that to the stage. Here we go. All right, let's do. Okay. So in this first clip, you guys, all right, maybe I'm not going to show that one as the first one. The first one I'm going to show is a clip of him with his family dog. So we know that at some point his dad and his stepmom. So wait, let's give them a brief overview real quick of the story. So Elliot Rodgers is an incel. He's one of the most well-known incels. So incel stands for involuntarily celibate. He had his manifesto called My Twisted World, which I believe he was in 2014 is when Elliot Rodger had his like big debut. He was 22 years old when all of his crime day happened. He would be considered a spree murderer because he started his killings in one area and like at the home in the apartment, and then moves on to the sorority girls, which is pretty interesting. What would you add to that? There's so much.
I think, you know, that he is a kid who came from England, moved to California with his dad originally. He was his dad, wealthy family, privileged. Definitely. Which I think makes this so much more interesting. You know, so he has a couple of diagnoses that we know about, some that we're going to kind of imply. But I
Mhm.
think, and then he kind of talked about the entire aspect of his life
The whole thing.
via the media. So,
Oh my gosh. So let me start with this video of this is his family dogs. So wait till you guys see this. This is so bothersome. Horrible laugh. And then like, he picks the dog up. That's not us laughing, guys.
I got you.
Okay. That is so creepy. So before we even start, let me put out there like a disclaimer that we do not, hi Truth, we do not agree with any of this. We're not spreading violence. We're totally against all of this. We're trying to give you guys, I just heard everybody that I watched with their videos was like, make sure you do a disclaimer at the beginning. So just so everybody knows, we do not agree with any of this behavior. So what does this video say to you? This was like horrifying when I saw this.
So I think it says two things to me. One, it shows his deviant side and how he was kind of getting off on the fact that the dog was so tiny, but at the same time feisty. And then if you have, most of you don't really know how I have like this weird spiritual side where I feel like our animals just know shit. And it, to me, even though it's a Chihuahua and they're nasty dogs sometimes to begin with, I think animals just have this extra sense. And I think that's what they were also picking up on too.
I totally agree with that. When he picks that dog up, all I could think is, I have power over you.
Yeah.
Right? Because I feel like he's now, and the dog is like squirming, and that like that laugh is like horrifying, right?
Which he does a lot.
A lot. And it gets more sinister as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Hi, Citizen Sleuth. I'm going to play another dog one that I have here. I was like, oh my gosh. So wait. Oh, and you guys, I'm getting this from, how would you say that? Zephyr. And the other one that I'm getting this from is from EWU Crime Story Time. So make sure you guys go over and check them out. These videos were actually really good. They both did a fabulous job with this. Of all the different things that I could have chosen, I chose these two. So this is the second dog clip.
And there's that laugh again. Cruelty to animals is a stereotypical sociopath behavior, and although what we've seen is pretty mild, it suggests that Elliot Rodger enjoys exercising power over beings that are weaker than himself, which ironically is what he spends his manifesto and videos complaining about other people doing to him.
Okay. Sorry, that went over. My niece was knocking at my door and I had to tell her it was live. I apologize. Okay, but in this video, you guys, I think the fact that he walks across the street, right, to let his dog engage with this one, wouldn't we all walk away from this? I mean, I know I would. If there was a dog, I would just be assuming that it's guarding the house. And I would have like kept walking. So the fact that he goes over and then lets his dog snap at the other dog, I just think just shows so much evil, or like, I don't know. He just, that, what would you say to this?
I agree fully.
Same?
Most people would not want their
You agree?
animal to fight with another animal or even try to attack or be attacked. So it's definitely odd behavior.
Oh, Sarah makes a good point. It's escalating violence. So I totally agree with that. So he goes from first where he's like laughing at his dog. Now he's like letting this dog snap at the other dog. And then it escalates onto humans, right? So, and how many other videos of dogs were there that I just didn't see? So I think that's like, I think you guys, when it comes to antisocial behavior, because we talk about that a lot, we do often see cruelty to animals. However, we don't always see it. So if somebody isn't cruel to animals, that wouldn't necessarily, rule somebody out. But in this case, I think it is clear that for neither one of these issues, like these experiences, to make him feel uncomfortable. And then not only does he not feel uncomfortable, but he's taping it. So how many times did it happen that he didn't tape it? I was like, this just shows so much about his personality to me. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to, let's switch over real quick to, I have Sarah's presentation, and it just gives us some notes so that we could just talk talk over it a little bit. So I have to add it to the stage, and then let me make it bigger. All right, there we go. So, okay, so the background, and thank you, Sarah. This is Sarah Adams, everyone, and hold on, I'm going to copy and paste this to the comments so that if anybody wants to go over there, and she has amazing content over there, so thank you, Sarah. But she gives a background. So Elliot Rodger's manifesto, which was titled My Twisted World. What do you think about that? I have to ask, like, the fact that he named it My Twisted World, do you think that the fact that he uses like twisted says that like he was insightful about some of the things that he was going through? I feel like he's so not insightful. And then, yeah.
Well, I mean, you can't deny that the ideas that he was angry about, it's not that they never happen. They do. And I think, so like the idea of women and men, what he talked about is not unheard of. But I also think twisted could be related to how he saw the world based on the Asperger's and the autism spectrum disorder as well, because I think sometimes they see interactions separately, and because they can't maybe fully understand it in the realm of autism, it seems twisted to them. So
good point. I don't think he was ever like properly diagnosed with autism, but I do believe that his dad does an interview
he was diagnosed with.
Was he diagnosed with that? Okay, well then I was wrong.
I thought I was watching a documentary where his
clearly,
dad,
in my opinion,
in therapy. They put him in therapy, and I feel like it was the only thing he was officially diagnosed with.
Oh well, it makes sense, right? So, let's see, what else do we have here? So, real quick, you were talking about the culture and stuff, and just so people know, we went over the other night, but it was like in a private live thing. So I will bring it up if it's still here. I think it is. Oh, yes, it is. Here it goes. So it's loading. But in a minute, I'll pull that up too. But it shows like the pictures that a lot of the incel community use to describe their views on males and females. So I'll pull that up. But real quick. So he, in his, in 2014, in Islamistic killings where he killed 6 people and injured 14 others before taking his own life. So the manifesto provides insight into his motivations, personal struggles, making it a key piece of understanding of the tragedy. I totally agree with this. So he has misogynistic views, right? He has his plan for his day of retribution, and he outlines all of this in like an autobiographical account that was 137 pages. He emailed it to 34 people. That's right. So let's see. Oh, so Sarah gives the supporting information here of where she got her information from. So let's see here. All right, content analysis. Look at his manifesto's content is divided into sections that chronicle Rodger's life from birth to age 22, because 22 is when he commits these crimes and then he takes his own life, with a particular emphasis on his social and psychological struggles. So some of the key details include some of these themes here. So we have early life and entitlement. So the manifesto begins with Rodger's childhood. So I'll go over each like bullet point and then we'll talk about it. The manifesto begins with Rodger's childhood, highlighting his sense of entitlement from a young age. For example, at age 3, he threw a tantrum over a birthday cake piece, and his demands were often rewarded. So we have to remember that, such as getting a desired room after a tantrum. By age 7, he viewed his father's girlfriend as a status symbol and saw his sister as competition, showing early signs of rivalry and resentment. That is so well written, Sarah. So one of the big things that I see here that like sticks out to me big time is the fact that he was positively reinforced for bad behavior. And right, so if you're gonna reward the kid when he's throwing a tantrum, he's just going to learn that if he protests enough that you might give in. Would you add anything to that?
Nope. I think it's interesting though, like hopefully people understand like why we end up going back and looking at things. Because if we look at what's going on here, nothing in there alone would be like this kid is gonna be a troublemaker, because it's normal behavior. But then when we start to multiply it with the social isolation and the obsession with status and all of that, that's when it becomes so amplified. So I love that, you know, people can see how we have to work backwards because of that reason.
1,000%, right? And I think now that a lot of us are like getting older, I think we can really look back and see how our childhoods have affected us, right? Like some people still won't, but I think that a lot of the people here, thank goodness, are that they get that. So that's not usually something that people come at me for, which is good. I'm so glad that you explained that though, because I do think it's so important for anybody who might not understand why to know. So thank you for that. Social isolation and envy. So he struggles with social interactions, feeling inferior to his peers who are taller, more talented, and happier. At age 9, he noticed social hierarchies and attempted to gain popularity by changing activities such as quitting Pokemon for skateboarding, but he felt unadmired when others, especially younger peers, outperformed him. His friendships were competitive and he fantasized about being admired as a professional skateboarder. I remember also one of the things that stuck out about the skateboarder stuff was that he does all this stuff, so he changes his appearance. This was like when he was 9. This is when he dyed his hair, or had his parents let him get his hair dyed blonde, because he was having like an identity crisis with his biracial identity. So, right? Did you notice that too?
Yep. Which again is not odd. Most kids go through this, but again, it's all of these things coming to a head kind of in, you know, in a format where that leads to this. Plus, I don't know how much we're going to talk about it, but you know how personality psychology is like my thing. And I think this is one of those stories that so much plays into his personality with the narcissism and things like that. Part of me wants to know, were you bullied because of your personality to begin with? Which we know personality is partially ingrained genetically, along with environmental. So how much of your behavior was due to the fact that people didn't like who you were as a person, which you may not have been able to help either. So
yes, and I don't think he was able to really identify it. He's like, I'm the supreme gentleman. Why don't people like me? Right. So I think he was like, he really thought that he was putting himself out there. But the problem is that he wasn't putting himself out there. He would go places and be like, oh, you know, nobody spoke to me tonight. I thought about it, you guys. If somebody's like, picture yourself being at a party at like 20, 21 years old, and there's one person sitting there that doesn't talk to anyone. Like, of course, people aren't going to talk to you. You're not like talking to anybody either. So now you look like the creep that's just sitting there staring at everyone. Right?
Yep.
It's crazy to me. So let me show you this real quick. So here goes a picture. We have to add it to the screen. So this picture is what incels, you guys. This is what they consider like they're like, this is their culture. So there's girls, and they categorize girls into two main categories. One is the Becky. Becky is considered a feminist. She's usually needy. And again, you guys, this isn't me saying this. This isn't anything psychological, nor do I agree with any of this. This is all coming from incel community. So Becky would be a feminist, needy. We're probably Becky's, just so you know. Needs to be dominant in one relationship. She's an average 6 out of 10. I don't agree with that, though. Will likely dye her hair green, pink, or blue after attending college. Friends are white knights that defend her stupid opinions online, post provocative pictures because she needs attention. I don't agree with any of that. But if you guys take notice, Becky over here has her hair up like in a bun. She has her school bag on, her books. She's just dressed in like regular clothes. Like she's not trying to outdo anybody. So a Becky would be a very average person as far as they're not trying to like stand out, stuff like that. She got her Uggs on and her leggings over here. So, and she goes to college. That's like one of the big ones. I think that's what made me think of us. Over here is the Stacy. Stacy, if you guys take notice that they make her even taller, right? So she's got blonde hair. She hates basic bitches like Becky. I think that's crazy. Luscious natural blonde hair. Oh, cucks every man she ever knew when Chad shows up. I'll show you Chad in a minute. Always had attention, enjoys alone time. Lets Chad dominate her. Shows off body online because she knows she can make big money off virgin losers. So what do you say about and these are like the only two that they see. It's like you're a Becky or a Stacy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know.
I think it's crazy how perverted, and I don't mean perverted in a sexual way, but like perverted their thought process goes into understanding people, and if you only see the world in 3 different types, you have created a reality that is just going to build to frustration, to eventual, because I think a lot of the incel community, they are so frustrated that it's not a surprise when things like this happen and you find out that this is the group that they hung out with. I don't ever think it's a surprise that it got to this far because of how warped their reality becomes.
I totally agree. So the other night we were when the live thing, like we were doing like a members only live. So we asked ChatGPT, if you were a Chad, what would you look like? And this is what it generated for us. So, and one of the things that right? Isn't that funny? So one of the things that was noted here is that he's got like the jawline. He has symmetrical features. He looks like he goes to the gym. He's got his veins popping out. So this is the guy that they hate because they believe that Chads, they believe are approximately 20% of the male population, but they have 80% of the sex. So that's the problem. So they need to eliminate them so that they could have more opportunities with women. So if you look up, this was a Becky, I believe, or no, was a Stacy. This was Stacy, blonde hair, shapely, and then Becky was right here. I think Becky was just as beautiful, but this is just what ChatGPT threw out at us, and I thought I was like, oh my gosh, of course it did. I agree with all this stuff. So let me show another video real quick. All right, let's see. Now I have to add it to the stage. There's so many steps here. All right. So let's show the narcissism one.
Yep.
I have a narcissism one since we're talking about that.
Right now I'm wearing my Hugo Boss shirt. It's one of my favorite button-down shirts. This is a shirt I wore to the premiere of The Hunger Games. I look fabulous. And yeah, I did walk on the red carpet on that premiere. It's quite right now I'm wearing my...
So he says, which was quite an experience. And I believe if they go back, there's like another part of it. But this goes right to what you were saying, right? About being a narcissist.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Your typical narcissist. Yep.
Yeah. And does he really think that doing that in the camera is going to make a girl be like, oh, I want to go out with him? Like he was shimmying in the camera. I'm like, what is he thinking? What was he thinking? But again, could it be too that he didn't? I don't know. Maybe people did tell him. I don't know. Let's see.
You know, like I mean, if he was still alive,
yeah.
we'd be able to get so much more info because
yes,
as a male, he's not horrendous looking. You know, like there's
no, he's not.
He looks average to maybe like give or take 10 points type of thing. So I you know, like, so to understand where all of this stemmed from in more detail, I would have liked, because I feel like he always just said the same thing over and over and over again.
He really did.
You know, so there has to be more to this story than one girl just putting you down. You know, everybody has their own likes.
Yeah. Well, I think he like hated his brother and sister because his sister, he felt like was, you know, she got all the attention, and same thing with his brother, and that people liked his brother and he was popular and so was his sister. And I was like, oh my God. But he does do a lot of that. One of the things that I found fascinating. So let me ask you a question real quick, because I know people here are probably wanting to know too. So everybody's been talking about the Kohberger case, right? And a lot of people are, arguing that he's a lot like Elliot Rodger, but I don't see it. I see the incel part in the sense that he clearly wants to be with women that he can't get, right? But I see for Bryan, I feel like he was trying to emulate Bundy, even though he was not a Bundy, right? But I feel like that's who he tried to emulate. I feel like if he knew that people paired him with incel, that he would want to correct that. Does that make sense? What do you think?
Yeah. I read a lot about that too, because even when I was doing like different comparisons, it was always coming up with like a comparison to Kohberger. But I actually agree with you that I think, you know, if it's just gonna be about the fact that we hate women and there's narcissistic tendencies, that is not enough for me to characterize them together. Because Kohberger, I thought, while he, you know, I've always been on the fence with the narcissistic stuff. I mean, he's not as in your face.
He's a narcissist.
Rodger is in your face narcissist, thinking I am so much better than you, but he doesn't do it in an angry way, where I thought Kohberger only portrayed his narcissism through anger. Like when somebody offended him, and it was just like, he wasn't purposefully going out and be like, I'm the smartest, I'm the best, why can't you see my genius? He wasn't doing that like Rodger was. You know, where he was flat out telling you, I am the best, what the hell is wrong with you?
Where his was more internalized.
Correct, yeah.
He does talk about it on his Tappa Talks and stuff, but I feel like Elliot Rodger, I feel like he was using what he knew and what he had available to him, just like I feel the same with Kohberger. But I feel like, okay, like you said, just because I don't think either one of them loved women type thing, I don't think that qualifies you right away as an incel. Now, I do think that BK is Papa Rodger. I've always thought that. I've never not thought that. I've done videos on it. I even did the Google Trends, and I was able to track Papa Rodgers back to Washington, being created in Washington in 2022, specifically in Pullman. So, and that's where Bryan was staying. So I definitely think it was him. So the only thing that I would conflict with was, okay, if that was him and his name was Papa Rodger and he spells it the same way as Elliot Rodger, what would that be about? But then I was watching like a preview for the new Amazon. I don't think it came out yet, but it's coming out. It's like a little docuseries. And one of the things in there was somebody who went to college with him that said that in their classes that they studied serial killers, including, and then at the end, he says, even though he's not a serial killer, they say Elliot Rodger. And I'm like, ooh, and Ted Bundy was one of them too. So, and they only named like 5. I can't remember off the top of my head who all of them were, but I was like, oh my gosh, because it like caught my attention. So if he would have studied Elliot Rodger, that just says to me that just like with other things, like how we had the Bateman thing on and the Bundy thing on, that this was just different things. Like he picked different pieces from each of these people to like create. And even the thing with like, he told that girl that she had good birthing hips. We come to find out that that was a movie. That was from a movie. So it's like, that's like awkward too, right? So I wound up finding a clip that shows Elliot Rodger doing that same thing. So again, I see similarities in behavior, but not necessarily in incel behavior.
Yeah, I agree.
And again, there were women that wanted to be with Kohberger, and he gave his phone number to women. Like, I feel like, I don't know. Here we go. Let's look at this.
Animals. You are animals, and I will slaughter you like animals.
They're like animals, and I slaughter them like animals. I hate them.
I hate you. All of you sexually active men. I hate you. All of you. If I had it in my power, I would stop at nothing to reduce every single one of you to mountains of skulls and rivers of blood.
It has shown me mountains of skulls and rivers of blood.
The animals.
Okay. So he was clearly getting this stuff from things just like I think
It's
Kohberger
so
was.
funny that
So
you
do I
show
think
that
there are
clip.
some behaviors that overlap? Yes.
Yeah, I think it's funny
Yeah,
that you show that clip because I actually did a little bit of Jungian work on him, and and like the thing I wrote down was that he basically became possessed by his shadow. And if any of you know anything about Carl Jung and all of his archetypes, his shadow, we use the example of Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker to really represent you not knowing how to control your shadow and letting the shadow overtake you. And I think that's almost, if we go to that level with him, that's exactly also what happens. Where I don't think that necessarily happens with Kohberger. I think he was still working towards understanding his shadow rather than becoming his shadow, if that makes sense.
That's actually a really good point. That's a good point. Good point. Yeah, I totally see all that. So one of the things that I'm like, how do I segue over to something else here? Because I'm trying to think of like what I could segue with that, but I'll just jump to something else. Like, it is what it is. So one of the other things that I have here, he talks a lot about being a virgin. And he does the godlike thing. So this was another similarity that I did see with Kohberger, in my opinion. I feel like Kohberger thinks that he's also God, but is that just a narcissist thing? That's not necessarily an incel thing.
No, I feel like it's the opposite of an incel thing. And I think that's why this came out differently. So if we look at some of the incels that are in the world who look up to him, I think they're idolizing the fact that he was able to be like, I'm the best. What is wrong with you? This is why this is happening, because you did this. You forced me to do this. Where most incels are embarrassed by it, or they hate women, but they don't come out and physically say anything because they know that they're going to be brought down by saying something. So I feel like that's why they idolized him so much, was because I
agree with you.
Yeah,
I agree with you. And I feel like Elliot Rodger had more of like an emotional part to him, where I feel like Kohberger's more of like an animal, like Bundy, like that animalistic, Also, I want to just, because I know people are going to be like, oh my God, what was your point with the Papa Rodger thing? I just remembered what I was saying with that. Why do I think that Kohberger named himself Papa Rodger? I think because he studied Elliot Rodger in school, just like he, in my opinion, I've always said that he wants to be better than Bundy. He wants to be better than Papa Rodger. Now I'm about to give Dr. Schultz a huge shout out for this. Do you remember when we did, I just got goosebumps, so I know I'm right about this, and I even wrote it on my hand, so I did not forget to say it. Do you remember when we went over, and if anybody wants to see it, we analyzed Kohberger's rap song, line by line, and do you remember the part about sunning? And then you told, and you said that sunning is like, how people like say like, all right, son, like, what's up, son? Okay, so I have goosebumps. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it. So Papa Rodger, now he's the Papa. He says like he's sick of sunning, like being sun, like people would sun him. So being Papa Rodger, it's like now I'm the dad, I'm the Papa Rodger. Elliot Rodger would look up to me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I agree with that. Yeah.
But if you didn't like point that out with the sunning line in his rap video, I don't know if I would have made that connection. So thank you for that, because I literally have goosebumps even thinking about it, because I think that exactly it. So it's him just wanting to be better than somebody else again.
Yeah.
Wait to give you
definitely agree with that.
exactly what you deserve. Utter annihilation.
So this was before he did all time.
Now here's the rest.
I am so godlike. Wait to give you
Okay, so in that clip, he talks about being godlike, which I think is a very narcissistic thing, right? It's like, what would be the most grand thing you could think of is I'm a godlike figure, especially if you're a killer and you're the one who gets to see who lives and who dies, right?
Yeah. Yep. I think you're frozen, Jamie.
Oh, here it goes.
There you go.
Yes, I'm a shy, quiet guy, but I have good qualities to myself. I'm a gentleman. I'm sophisticated. I'm polite. I have good values. And I can be fun, too, if they just give me a chance to open up. But girls never give me a chance. They're evil and cruel like that. Yes, I'm...
Okay, so that was the first part of it. This one goes a little bit further. So Carl Jung, real quick, one of the things that this is like just a weird fact, because like he hangs out room over his bed. He had a quote, and it was from Carl Jung. And I meant to be. So I was going to put, I could do that another time. But I thought that was pretty cool. So over here, this was his final video, and the final video continued.
Mm-hmm.
So these are like his final things.
You girls have never been attracted to me. I don't know why you girls aren't attracted to me, but I will punish you all for it. It's an injustice, a crime, because I don't know what you don't see in me. I'm the perfect guy. And yet you throw yourselves at all these obnoxious men instead of me, the supreme gentleman. I will punish all of you for it.
Okay, so I thought that like one of the things that I wanted to show here too is that this was like showing where he was mentally right before he was doing before he pulled off his crime. At the same time, I wanted to show you something. So, and I didn't want to show it until after we looked at a few clips. I wanted to, especially you, take notice of how different he is. So this next clip is not a clip that he put out online. This was something that I don't know, I believe this Zypher got like a Freedom of Information Act. So they had other videos on his phone that he didn't necessarily release on like his YouTube or wherever he released it to. Okay. So this is one of them. And I think what I want you guys to see is, in my opinion, he has like a different demeanor here. And even the guy that does this even picks up on it. He's like, does anybody notice like anything different? So, and I don't, like he was saying it like it's something different, but there is. So listen.
Okay. Mom just ordered me the book I've been waiting for so long. The 5th book of A Song of Ice and Fire. And here it is in my hands. Hardcover. Brand new. This is so awesome. And what's this? Here's my book. I've been counting down the days. I've been in such great anticipation for this book. Oh, what happened here? Little tear in the paper. Oh, well. Oh, I'm actually holding a Dance with Dragons. This is so awesome. I'm going to read it now.
Okay, so he's excited here, right? And he's like, this is so awesome. My mom just got me this book. And here we see him like finally excited about something, right? So did you notice like the difference in the way he was talking? feel like he puts an act on. A lot of his stuff is an act.
I definitely think that that can be part of it, because I feel
The act part, I don't mean like he's acting out like as far as his personality. I mean an act as far as like the I feel like he does that on purpose.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say.
I agree with. I mean, that one just sounded genuine where he was excited about something happening, but I feel like he's trying to be more evil in his YouTube videos that he's putting out to people or wherever he was posting them, on like the incel, like trying to see people to see him as powerful, maybe because he lacked in power. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a difference between the two.
Yeah, I agree. And then this one here, he talks about being an alpha male, which I think is pretty funny. Not funny, I don't know it.
You will finally see that I am, in truth, the superior one, the true alpha male.
Here's that.
You will finally see that I am.
This is one of the videos that he does a few times. So he takes like a few takes on that one, which was very interesting to me. Let me see. I think there was another part of that. I'm going to have to do these, like all of these in a different live too. There's just so many of them. But real quick. So one of the ones I can't believe we're already like 40 minutes in. It's crazy. So let's go. We did his complaining. I feel like there was enough of that. The day of retribution audio of his friend. So this is something that I think we should listen to.
Minutes ago, I finally checked my email. I saw this letter. It's from Elliot Rodger, who's a Santa Barbara City College student. It's 141 pages. So when you get to the end, which is where I went to immediately, page 134, it's a very detailed attack they plan on taking in Isla Vista, including shooting people and driving a car to intentionally run over pedestrians and then shoot themselves.
You girls have never been attracted to me. I don't know why you girls aren't attracted to me, but I will punish you all for it. It's an injustice, a crime. I don't know what you don't see in me. And yet you throw yourselves at all these obnoxious men.
Okay, so in that video, one of the things, what did he say? I wanted to say something about. It'll come back to me. I feel like that's just very narcissistic. Thank God his friend called in. But they also say, so if you listen to that video further, they also go into how, like, the 911 caller says that somebody else just called that in as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anything you want to say about that? Go ahead.
I feel like he never, I feel like there is like one defining moment. What that is, I'm not 100% sure, that made him just make this scenario his reality, because I don't ever think that he necessarily was turned down that often. I don't think, like for some reason, I feel like his narcissism led him to not even date that often or try to date because he felt so superior. And so he internalized all of that into this weird reality that people were rejecting him when they really weren't in the first place.
How much of that do you think can go towards autism as well, though? Not understanding.
I definitely. So I think that, like, that's something that's important that I think they even talked about in some of the things. I think the autism spectrum disorder diagnosis definitely led him to some of this thinking, but it definitely doesn't cause violence. And so, that's where what else has been entwined with this. But I think him not really knowing how to talk to people, get along with people because of how autism kind of forces you to awkwardly be in social situations to begin with, then add the narcissism on top of that, just spirals into this reality that he has that nobody else exists in. And he starts making these things up and being like, she looked at me weird, because there's a part in that, in the Untold Stories where he's driving around and be he wouldn't even talk to me. Look at those guys. They would get whoever they want. They're having sex with whoever they want. I hate that. I'm like, you don't even know them. You were driving past these people. and you're already doing like schizotypal type shit where you're just coming up with scenarios that aren't even in existence. I think you're frozen. Oh, now you're back.
I know. I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I was able to hear you the entire time. You said about the schizotypal. I totally agree with all that as well. And you'll sometimes see that those behaviors in that scenario. So I think that they are all great points. Another 911 call that somebody did. I have this one. This one's real short.
Hey, I'm getting Liza. We got multiple gunshot wounds on the corner of Del Norte and Segovia. Del Norte and Segovia. I think what you need is a medic poetry. Going down on the corner of Segovia and Del Norte, I need 3 ambulances here.
On the day of retribution, I am going to enter the hottest sorority house of UCSB.
I think I added that in there too because he too has that common theme. Like a lot of people are just hating on these sorority sisters, right? I'm like, what is happening?
Yep.
I have this was the sorority phone call.
The sorority for quite some time. Isn't
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. Play it.
Can you hear me?
You're good. Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay.
inflated sense of self-esteem may have led him to think that someone would open the door for him without question. In his mind, he was an extremely attractive and well-dressed young man. Why wouldn't the girls open the door? Fortunately, the sorority sisters were able to dodge the determined Elliot, but others weren't so lucky.
Hey, one, I'm getting Liza. We got multiple gunshot wounds on the corner of Del Norte.
All right, and then we heard that after that.
Del Norte.
But that was the beginning of it. So he goes to the sorority house. How awesome is it that they didn't open the door for him?
How lucky did they get? Because I mean, like they were kind of talking about, like this is someone who probably doesn't look threatening. You have people knocking on your door all the time in the sorority, but you guys, for some reason, chose not to answer that door, which was a blessing in disguise. Because he shoots the couple of girls who are outside of the sorority as he's leaving.
Right.
I
wonder what it was that made them not open the door. Like, was it that nobody answered? Was it that somebody looked out the window and was like, "Who's that weird guy?" Or like, who knows?
Yeah, it is very strange. So something must have been going on, because he had already killed 3 people by this time. So now he's like doing it, which that part was very weird to me, which confused me about his purpose. And I think, because so the 3 guys that he killed were of Asian descent, I believe. Not what you would consider an alpha male. They were kind of very similar to him in nature.
I was just saying, so he was killing himself?
That could have been. 96 times he stabbed the first guy. So that is just so much rage.
Well, if you think about it, right, these guys had interpersonal relationships and he wasn't able to have an interpersonal relationship. Yeah. So they almost showed him that this isn't about you being bicultural or biracial. This is like something different. So I feel like that was like all of that rage. He even said, when there was people over, or his one friend told him that he like had sex and he's like, "No, you didn't. I don't believe you." And then I guess he took a video of it. So he started showing them and he was like scarred from it.
Yeah. I mean, there was a saying that they talked about that the reason why he ended up killing those 3 were because his original plans were to bring people back to the house and kill them. And he needed the space. But I definitely think while he started killing the first person, that is when a different perspective kind of started to take over.
And that could have just been from him not expecting, or not realizing what to expect. And that he was, that it's not easy to, I'm assuming that you'd be very out of breath and stuff. I'm trying to choose my words.
Yeah.
This one was Fight Story. Oh, listen to this one.
Look, that's the house I got beat up at when I walked in on the party. That was about almost a year ago now. Back in August of 2013.
Of course, what Elliot Rodger doesn't tell you is why he got beat up there. He tried to shove a bunch of girls off a ledge because he was angry at women in general for not wanting to be with him, and a bunch of guys jumped in and shoved him off the ledge, breaking one of his ankles. While he was hobbling home, he realized that he had left his $200 Gucci sunglasses there, so he went back to get them. Unfortunately, he was so drunk that he went to the house next to it instead and started demanding they give him his sunglasses back. At this point, the people there had heard about what he did, so their response was to call him a pussy and beat the crap out of him. In Elliot's mind, he was a victim, and the people who beat him up were all brutal, horrible people.
So think about that.
Yeah. I think it's crazy. And again, I think he's just at this point where you already had your plan. The manifesto's already built. The idea of hatred is already there. And now he's living out what I would call a persecution complex, where he's forced to do these things because all these people were doing injustice stuff. So he was like, this is the only way to solve this.
That's so funny. So remember earlier when I forgot what I was going to say? I was going to say he talks about the injustices. So he's definitely an injustice filer. So every time we're like, most of us, there might be an injustice at some point, but then we work through it. We try to find like the silver lining, or we just learn the lesson and move on. He just kept filing it and filing it and filing it. And the more injustices he encountered, or that he perceived that he encountered, the angrier he got. Right.
I did find it odd that end game was to unalive himself. Because normally that would not be something that we see with someone who is narcissistic.
Wait, I accidentally
I figured.
I exited out of StreamYard. That wasn't even my computer, like going out of whatever. Instead of hitting back for the Elliot Rodger thing, I literally exited out of StreamYard. I was like, oh my God. Thank you for continuing that for me.
No problem. I was just saying that I find it odd that he ended up taking his own life in the end, because narcissists normally wouldn't do that. Because, so that's where I think some of the underlying, where, yes, he's a narcissist, but at the same time, he's trying to gain control and he's losing control. And there's so many things playing at this, because I don't think that would be a normal end a lot of the time.
Right. And he could also be, part of the incel community. I would have to do the research, but I wonder how their endings. Do you know what I mean?
I'm wondering if some of that talk, if he was privately talking to some of these people and they were like, dude, if you're going to do this, you got to go out. You'll be our God in the end. And that kind of hyped him to end it that way as the narcissist. That definitely could have played into it.
Yeah. So it could have been him being in control of the situation. Like, I'm going to be the one that says it. I totally agree with that. What are other things that you would say here? Like, what are some of the notes that you have? I don't have your notes. Sarah, you're awesome.
There's a lot of things. Like, he's definitely dealing with depression, paranoia, I thought. Confusion. We talked about the identity thing, because he wants to label himself as an alpha male, but also hates the alpha male at the same time. Mm-hmm. The whole rage at society type of thing, which I still find fascinating, with the fact that you are someone of privilege, but you have so much of this rage. Like, why do you feel like this was the way to go when there are so many other ways you could have stopped being a virgin? You could have paid for it if you really wanted to. And someone could have given you what you needed, but at the same time, you didn't want to go that way.
I think his dad does, like in Walter's interview, and I think she asks him something like, why didn't you just pay for it, whatever? And he said that he tried and that he turned it down. So that just says to me that he had a complete inability for interpersonal relationships, but it also says, as a narcissist, wouldn't that hurt your like narcissistic pride to be like, I had to pay for this? Where he just wanted somebody else to just be like, I want to be with you type thing. And I don't even think that he was able to perceive the situation as just go, dad's going to pay for it. Like, I don't think that was something that he would even consider based off of.
Well, I think that's where like you said, that's where the autism definitely comes in. He's confused about why people don't like him for who he is. What is he doing wrong? He's a nice guy. I'm a gentleman. And then again, when you put that into the incel community and they're all being like, oh, well, girls don't like the nice guy, girls don't do this, and they're warping the idea of men versus women and alpha versus beta and all of that. And then add his fragile ego, like Mark just said, on top of it, you crack. You crack.
You do.
Yeah.
What are other notes you have?
Oh God.
I feel like this is going to be a two-parter because I feel like there's just so much information with him.
So I did a couple things where, because I'm a big theory type person.
Yes.
So I did a couple of things with different theories like psychodynamic analysis, so Freud would definitely be like,
so wait, why don't we do a separate one about some of the theories and you tell me which ones to do, and so instead of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I did psychodynamic. I did social cognitive.
That's a good one.
I just did a regular personality disorder, and then obviously I did a Jung and object relation.
Object relation?
Mm-hmm.
All right. That could be its own live right there. Do you know what I mean? And then that way I could put stuff together too, so we could show people stuff while we talk about it. I think that would be good. Yeah. Is there any other things that you have over there? Do you want to, are they, I don't know if they're theory related, because I think that would be a really good live.
So most of the rest that I have that we haven't talked about is theory related.
Oh my God, wait, someone just said dork off. You just got so dork off. Yeah.
It's so true. I'm like, oh, listen to my theory.
Me too. I was like, why don't we do a whole live on this one?
I know.
That's so funny.
So, I'm a huge psychoanalytic theorist for all of you who don't know. Or at least I should say I give it the respect that people don't give it.
I do too.
Because I still think that there's quality there.
I do too. I do 100%. I totally
even
agree
though a lot of people don't like Freud or Carl Jung or things like that. I don't think we'd be here without them. And I feel like they definitely give insight.
Yeah, I think people are just uncomfortable, or especially at the time, if we put ourselves back in the time, people didn't talk about sex like that. So when he came out with psychosexual stages, I think people were just turned off by that. They were like, no pun intended. But I think they were
I think that's the thing. Today, people can't put themselves back in the late 1800s. And I'm like, think about, you all hate Freud because you think he's crazy. Yeah, but for the time, he was brilliant. Nobody else was saying anything. And so we wouldn't be here without them, fostering those ideas of any kind. So.
Yeah. And if you look at some of the things I don't know, I believe in the whole unconscious and the subconscious, all the conscious, I believe in the defense mechanisms, the id, ego, super ego. So, and we talk so much about the ego in true crime that I feel like you have to understand who not invented, that's probably the wrong word, who theorized that first and put it to life so that we can all, and that would be Freud. I do also think that it's important for people to know that during Freud's time, cocaine was legal, right? So I think that I wonder
it was up and coming.
Right. So I feel like So I feel like how much of the stuff that people tell him was it a side effect of using cocaine, talking more and stuff like that. And that could have given him more insight, which whatever works, right? It gave us the defense mechanism and everything else. But I do think it's also interesting that his daughter, Anna Freud, winds up becoming a big deal in psychology as well. And it's interesting because her dad believed that women didn't even have a psychology.
Right. He thought that they were delirious. Everything came from the uterus. Which would play into some of these thought processes that these men had.
Yes.
But then the defense mechanism aspect of it too, where Anna really comes in, I think there's so much projection that Rodgers is doing.
I talk a lot about projection. I totally agree with you. He projects a lot. And I always tell people, if you're listening, we tend to not like in other people what we don't like about ourselves, and a lot of that's just projection. So we're seeing it projected onto other people, and we're picking up on it. So I do think it's something for people to reflect on. But I think I talk so much about the concepts of Freud that I definitely. So when you started to say about Freud, I'm like, wait, and social cognitive theory, I do a lot with that too, and personality. This is all right up my alley, Dr. Schultz. I love it.
I know, me too.
Should we schedule another one and we'll give people a part 2?
Sure.
When should we do it? Next week?
Yeah, next week should be good.
All right, you guys, you don't have to harass me. Dr. Schultz just said that she'll come back next week. So after we're done, we will come. You just let me know, like give me, a few days or whatever, and we'll pick one. But I will let you guys know, I promise. They love you. So you have like a huge fan club.
I love
here.
them. So
I don't know if
I love
fan club's the word that I use for people, but they're like my extended students, and every one of them like soak up the information. So I love having you on too, because I think we both give them a lot of education that maybe you wouldn't get with true crime from other channels.
Yeah.
And you get to see 2 awesome bitches. So how about that? Hi, Drunk Turkey. Drunk Turkey's here. Drunk Turkey, I watched your video today. It was awesome. If you guys didn't see it, go watch the Drunk Turkey video today. Afton's here. Of course, all these people are coming in. So you guys, if you weren't here for the beginning, make sure you go back and watch. We talked about Elliot Rodger, and we both, Dr. Schultz, everyone agrees with me that she doesn't see Kohberger fitting into the Elliot Rodger, mold as much as a lot of people think. Wait, and one other thing before we hang up. So another big thing that people are talking about is page 118, Kohberger, in the highlighted stuff on a page 118, but they don't say what it is. They say it's a book, but they don't say what it is. A lot of people think that it's Elliot Rodger's manifesto. I do not. I think it's Bundy related. So at first I thought it was Anne Rule's book, The Stranger Beside Me, but I promised someone that I would give them a shout out because they sent me, they were like, why don't you look into this book? And I was like, oh my gosh. So I looked into it, and now I'm like conflicted. So now I think it could be, you guys, The Only Living Witness. And the part that I think would have been interesting was, and this is about Ted Bundy. It says, it asks about, of the women, I mean, the idealized women. What else can I say? And they ask a stereotype. No, they wouldn't be stereotypes necessarily, but they would be reasonable women, or reasonable facsimiles. This is like a little bit blurry. To women as a class not of women per se, but a class that has almost been created through a mythology of women and how they are used as objects. Would there be a standard beauty or attractiveness? I wondered, thinking of the range of victims' appearance. And then he says, everyone, Bundy answered, has his standards. So I think that we wouldn't say that Bundy's an incel, right? And a lot of the thing with the incels are about like their high standards and stuff. So I just think there's a lot of overlap in behavior of certain things, but I don't think that it's enough. Just like with a disorder, you have to have so many symptoms for so long and it's interfere with 2 areas of daily functioning. I just think that there's so many other things, but I do think, you guys, if anybody's looking into that 118 thing, look into that book too. But I'm going to have to send you both when we hang up, and I want you to tell me which 118 you would think it is. And I want you to be like dead serious.
All right.
Oh, yeah. Go watch the session, you guys, because me and Kelly went through and did that too. So thank you, Cuffy. All right. Thank you guys for being here. We're going to be back again next week with Dr. Schultz. So make sure you guys all tune in. I'll make sure I put the thumbnail up early again because we're doing pretty good here. I had the thumbnail up nice and early. Thank you all for being here. And thank you, Dr. Schultz.
Thank you. See you guys next week.
With our red and blue hair, they would say that we're Becky. And we're all excited. We're like Freud. We're like, oh my gosh, we're going to do a whole episode on it.
Geeking out already.
We really are. That was so funny when they said dork off. That was all right, you guys.
Thanks.
I'll see. Please like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed this so that I can continue to bring you content. Thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed this so that I can continue to bring you content. Thank you so much.